For nearly a decade, Oklahoma was one of the premier programs at turning field position into points. But in the last 2 years, something has gone dramatically wrong. Today, we're going to do a deep dive on exactly what's causing this and how OU can resolve this moving forward. And no, it's not because of the schedule, and it's not because of John Mateer. But before we go into the video, thanks again for clicking on this and watching. If you haven't subscribed yet, feel free to subscribe, leave a like, and a comment. Oh, and to the person that's been saying that they're not going to follow the channel until I figure out how to flip the OU, well, I hope this works well for you. Let's get into the video. For the last 20 years, which is the amount of time I've been an OU fan, in some ways it feels like I've been watching an elaborate game of whack-a-mole. And what I mean by that is an issue will pop up and the coaches and the staff and the team put all their energy into eliminating that issue. And most of the time, they end up resolving it. But that inevitably leads to another issue popping up. And you see where this is going. Some of the examples include the better half of a decade OU's defense being broken, which was resolved by bringing in Brent Venables. That inevitably led to the offense breaking, which then led to Brent Venables bringing in not one, not two, but now a third offensive coordinator. Although that issue isn't, I would say, entirely resolved yet, we're definitely heading in the right direction. But some of the moles that have popped up within the offense is the inability to block, the inability to run the ball. And obviously, in the last offseason, Brent Venables has made 2 moves to address those issues. But lastly, there's one interesting one that goes under the radar, and that's these special teams issues that Brent Venables experienced when he first got brought on as head coach. Early into his tenure, it wasn't uncommon to see special team errors or issues and really causing a lot of problems and leading into that 6-7 season. Well, Brent Venables addressed that by bringing in Coach Deacon. And just last year, OU had debatably the best special teams unit in all of college football. But ironically, the special teams unit becoming so elite, along with the defense, has now brought to light an entirely new issue. And this issue is something that has surfaced in just the last 2 years. But let's start on the positive side to show you exactly what the special teams and the defense did to put us in a position to see this flaw in our team. Last year, Oklahoma forced opponents to, on average, to start from their own 26. And that ranked at 5th best in the country. Oklahoma's own offense, on average, started from their own 31, which was 23rd best. When you combine those, that's a 5-yard field position edge. That edge has a ranking of 13th best in America. This 5-yard field position edge was actually the best output from OU in the last 10 years. Some of you might be thinking, well, it's probably because of Grayson Miller. I mean, he did have a really good season. He was averaging 46 yards a punt. That actually ended up 26th in the country and landed 27 points inside the 20, which is 18th best in the country. So he obviously was a part of that. But the story is largely due to opponents only averaging around 24 yards per drive against OU. So more likely than not, they were punting from their own territory around the 25-yard line. So the defense wasn't just stopping people, it was preventing them from going into midfield so then that they flipped the field. And one positive aspect of this is that the field position edge is actually one of the more repeatable things a team sees year over year. It has a better year over year carry than takeaways and havoc. It has a 37% correlation year over year. To understand our offense's performance, I built a model going back to 2016, and I looked at where everyone's drives were starting and asked how many points per drive should you score given where you started. Then I compared that to what they ended up actually scoring. In 2025, based on where they were starting, OU was expected to score around 2.5 points per drive. They ended up scoring around 2.1 points per drive, which is a shortfall of around 0.43 points per possession. Over 12 and a half drives a game, that's around 5 points every single game that's left on the field. So roughly what that means is they scored around 26 points, and they should have been scoring around 31 to 32 points. Now, here's the mark that gets a little bit uncomfortable. That performance actually ranks 111th out of 136 teams. That means only 25 teams worse than OU. And looking back at the last 8 years, here's where OU landed previously: 6th, 2nd, 1st, 3rd, 12th, 10th, 42nd, and then 4th. Top 12 in 7 of the 8 years. And then here's the part where we see a big shift in the last 2 years: 109th and then 111th. That's a severe drop off. And in case you're a glutton for punishment, I wanted to take it a step further to just show how unusual this is. So I measured every team's last 2 years against their prior 4 years across the range of the data. Oklahoma's 2025 season is the second biggest collapse in the data set. The other people on this list are Kent State, Navy, Utah, and then here's something interesting: Clemson twice, Alabama twice, and then Michigan last year. So obviously the latter half of that list, you have more premier programs, but in some ways you could almost classify these as post-dynasty programs that were spent years converting at elite level and then suddenly dropped off. And like I said earlier, I wanted to dismiss the 2 easy explanations that most people will jump to. One of those being the schedule. And of course, going into the SEC, you're going to have some level of drop off from an elite level, especially when you lose an offensive coordinator and a lot of personnel. And as we've come to know, OU has one of the most difficult entries into the SEC with a consistent top 5 difficulty in their schedule. So it's not something to dismiss. But I put opponent defensive quality into the model to better understand how much of that is due to the jump in quality of opponents. And when I did that, it only moved the number about 2%. Meaning, when I adjusted for the opponent, there was still a major collapse. So that's not the primary driving force of this shift in performance. Another possible reason someone might think of why OU's drives were stalling is because of the young offensive line. So I decided to look into this. I looked at the roster class data for every FBS team. For Oklahoma's 2025 offensive line, the room averaged a 2.74 in class year, while the national average was 2.73. So Oklahoma was ranked 76th of 134 in experience. So pretty much right down the middle. Although there was a lot of young starters on the offensive line, the room as a whole had an average amount of experience. So that's likely not the reason either. So then what did cause the issue? What was happening? Where were they stalling? Well, going into the analysis, I was thinking that they were stalling around midfield. So I broke it down into different segments. When looking at the amount of drives that were dying in their own territory, that's the ones that never crossed midfield, for 8 years, that was around 24 to 34% of where stalls were driving. In 2024, 48%. and in 2025, 40%. So we obviously see a little bit of a spike in drives dying in their own territory. But this next point is where we really start to see the numbers diverge. When we look to see when a drive does reach the opponent's 40, how many ended up going inside the 20? Back in 2016, this was 97%. 2017, 87. In 28, 93%. In 2019, 90%. In 2021, 80. 2023, 88. And then here's where we see the drop off. In 2024, 68%. And 2025, 61%. 4 out of 10 trips into scoring range now die before they even reach the 20, which is obviously now why we see Tate Sandell racking up field goals, winning the Luke Rosa, and obviously kudos to him because he had a lot of opportunities also to mess up. So now we know where on the field they were, the stalls were driving, but we don't necessarily understand the nature of the drives themselves. And looking at a down to down basis. What down is OU struggling in? And is there something they can do to reverse that trend? Well, I went to the play level, and really the main down and the main metric where OU has started to drop off entirely is first down success rate between the 40 and the 20. That was just the first down success rate was just 28% between the 40 and the 20. Historically, that was between 44 and 64%. So now nearly 3 out of 4 first down snaps in scoring range gain nothing. So part of the reason their drives are stalling are because of what's happening on first down. And there's a concept in football analytics called standard downs. It means you're on schedule, so that's 1st and 10, 2nd and 4, 3rd and 2, head of the chains essentially, or right on track. The downs where you have the whole playbook available, but you don't need a chunk play. And this is a little alarming what's happening. Oklahoma's national rank in standard down success rate by year. Here's the rankings. You can see 8th, 2nd, 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 11th, 25th, 13th, 6th, 8th, 8 straight years in the top 26. And then the last 2 years, 104th and 98th. Again, a pretty severe drop off in just the last 2 years. From 2016 to 2023, first down success rate was between 47 and 55% every year, and then 38%, and then 42, which means this second down average also grew longer. They were averaging 7.98 yards to go in 2025 on second down. That's the longest second down average in the last 10 years. This obviously leads to OU needing to rely more on passing plays, resulting in passing downs. 33% of their snaps were actually a passing down, which ranked 104th. And after 8 straight years ranked in the top 25 at avoiding those downs, what does this inevitably do? It leads to entirely way more pressure on John Mateer. It leads to limiting an offensive playbook and becoming entirely more predictable. And what's at the root of all of this? I think you know where this is going. OU couldn't run the ball. Looking at various running metrics at stuff rate or how often you're getting stopped at or behind the line, they're 118th. Line yards, which is measuring what the line generates, that's 111th. Second level yards, the yards gained past the line of linebackers, 115th. Power success, 3rd or 4th and short, 113th. Rushing efficiency overall is 124th. And the last one, open field yards, 127th out of 136. So what does this inevitably mean for OU this year? Well, first, it means running the ball has become exponentially more important. Running the ball opens up the playbook. It allows John Mateer not have to carry so much weight. It allows you to get out of the passing downs and more into those standard downs. But what this also means is that OU will not be able to make a national title run without turning field goals into touchdowns. Last year, we saw them lean heavily on Tate Sandell, and to his credit, he lived up to the hype, and he was a sole reason why OU even made the playoff. But we also saw that backfire when OU couldn't respond to Alabama in the playoff, or they couldn't score with Ole Miss. How they consistently refused to score a touchdown against Texas. OU is going to be relying not only on the running backs, but heavily on the tight ends for blocking, for red zone targets, and to open up running lanes for John Mateer. This is just the latest mold to pop up on this team. It may be able to be resolved just this season, but I'm curious to know what you guys think in the comments. Do you think OU will be able to improve on their ability to turn great field position into scoring opportunities? Or do you think we're going to see more of the same from last year? Thanks again for watching this video. It means a lot that you take the time to watch or listen. I'll be doing this all season long, so if you'd like to listen to more commentary and deep dive analysis, subscribe, hit the notification bell, leave a like, and let me know what you want to hear more of. We'll see you in the next one. Boomer.